The acid rain fell like bullets on Karak Prime, each drop carrying enough poison to kill a dozen lesser species. Commander Thekvar stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the yellow-green drops streak past the reinforced windows. His thick exoskeleton gleamed under the toxic storm, bioengineered to thrive in conditions that would melt flesh from bone. "Status report," Thekvar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 worlds in the past solar cycle. Sub-Commander Veltar stepped forward, her own exoskeleton bearing the scars of countless battles in hostile environments. "The methane moon is ours, Commander. Our forces have established 3 mining stations in the core regions. The locals offered no resistance after we demonstrated our environmental superiority." Thekvar nodded with satisfaction. Pattern was always the same. The Varathi Empire expanded through the galaxy's most brutal worlds, places where other species couldn't even survive long enough to mount a defense. While weaker civilizations huddled on their comfortable planets, the Varathi had learned to make homes in the heart of gas giants. On the surface of stars, and in the frozen void between galaxies, what of the crystalline entities in the northern hemisphere? Thekvar asked. "Eliminated. They tried to resist by increasing the atmospheric pressure to crushing levels. Our troops adapted within minutes. Entities couldn't comprehend how. We simply made our bones denser and continued the assault." The bridge crew around them worked with quiet efficiency. Each Varathi officer had been born and raised in conditions that would terrify most galactic civilizations. They didn't just survive in hostile environments, they preferred them. Comfort was weakness. Ease was death. Thekvar walked to the central command station, his heavy footsteps echoing in the ship's atmosphere of concentrated sulfur and methane. The air would kill most carbon-based life forms instantly, but for the Varathi, it was as refreshing as a spring breeze. "Show me the tactical display," he ordered. The holographic map materialized before him, showing the current state of Varathi expansion. Red markers indicated conquered worlds, planets where the surface temperature reached 1,000 degrees. Moons where the gravity could crush stone, gas giants where the pressure turned hydrogen into solid metal. Each conquest had been achieved through superior adaptation and overwhelming force. "We control 47 systems in this sector alone," Veltar reported. "Every world considered uninhabitable by galactic standards. Our empire grows stronger with each hostile environment we claim." Thekvar studied the display with pride. The Varathi had built their civilization on a simple principle: only the strongest deserve to survive. While other species wasted their time on diplomacy and trade, the Varathi had focused on becoming the ultimate survivors. They had engineered their bodies to thrive in any condition, built their technology to function in the most extreme environments, and developed a military doctrine based on pure environmental dominance. "Commander," came a voice from the communications station. "Long-range scouts are reporting something unusual in the outer territories." Thekvar turned his attention to the junior officer. "Elaborate." "Sector 7 Alpha, sir. Our reconnaissance vessels have detected a star system with an unusual planetary configuration. The third planet from the star shows signs of advanced technological development." "Another conquest opportunity?" Shavar asked, though he already knew the answer would disappoint him. "No, sir. The planet appears to be moderate. Temperate climate, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, liquid water oceans. The inhabitants seem to have developed space travel without even leaving their world's comfortable environment." Thekvar's expression darkened. Soft worlders. The galaxy was full of species that had evolved on gentle planets, never facing the challenges that forged true strength. They built their civilizations in perfect conditions, never learning what it meant to truly struggle for survival. "What threat assessment?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Minimal, sir. Their technology appears primitive compared to ours. They use chemical propulsion for space travel and still rely on planetary resources for survival. They've never had to adapt to hostile environments." Thekvar dismissed the report with a wave of his clawed hand. "File it with the other soft-world civilizations. We'll deal with them when we have time. Focus on the real conquests, the worlds that will actually challenge our forces." But as the bridge crew returned to their duties, Thekvar found himself thinking about the blue-green world in the distant system. Something about the report bothered him, though he couldn't identify what. Perhaps it was the mention of space travel. Most soft-worlders never even developed the desire to leave their comfortable planets. Why would inhabitants of a paradise world want to explore the hostile void of space? He shook off the thought. The Varathi Empire had been built on the foundation of environmental superiority. They had conquered worlds where the atmosphere was pure acid, where the ground was molten metal, where the very air would freeze the blood of lesser species. What possible challenge could inhabitants of a moderate world present? Sir Veltar approached with another report. The High Command is requesting our next target selection. Should we proceed with the neutron star system in Sector 12, or the black hole mining operation in the Void Territories? Dekvar considered the options. Both targets would present significant challenges even for Varathi forces. The neutron star system would require their most advanced radiation shielding, while the black hole operation would test their gravitational manipulation technology to its limits. These were the kinds of conquests that proved Varathi's superiority. The neutron star system, he decided, signaled the fleet to prepare for extreme radiation protocols. We'll show the galaxy once again that there's no environment too hostile for the Varathi Empire. As the massive fleet began its preparations, Dekvar took one last look at the acid-washed surface of Karak Prime below. The planet had been conquered 3 cycles ago, and now it served as a major industrial center for the Empire. Where other species saw only death and destruction, the Varathi had built thriving cities and productive facilities. This was their way. This was their strength. They didn't just survive in hostile environments, they dominated them. They turned the galaxy's most brutal worlds into the foundation of their power. The blue-green world in the distant system was quickly forgotten, filed away as just another soft-world civilization that would eventually fall to Varathi expansion. After all, what could inhabitants of a comfortable planet possibly know about real survival? As the fleet departed Karak Prime, heading toward their next conquest among the deadly radiations of a neutron star, none of them realized that their encounter with the inhabitants of that distant blue world would challenge everything they believed about strength, survival, and what it truly meant to be the masters of hostile environments. The Varathi Empire had ruled the harshest worlds for millennia, believing themselves the ultimate survivors. They were about to discover that survival took many forms, and that sometimes the greatest strength came from the most unexpected places. Dr. Li Huan rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen showing the latest deep space readings. The massive radio telescope array had been tracking unusual energy patterns for 3 weeks now, and the data was becoming impossible. To ignore something was moving at the edge of the solar system, something that definitely wasn't natural. Still nothing from the other observatories, asked his assistant, Dr. Kim Soo, as she entered the control room with 2 cups of coffee. The European array confirms our readings, Juan replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. Whatever is out there, it's big, and it's using technology we don't understand. Energy signatures are off the charts. Sue pulled up a chair and studied. The data displays. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon we haven't seen before? A new type of solar event, maybe? Juan shook his head. The patterns are too regular, too organized. This is artificial. Someone or something is conducting operations in our outer system. 3 hours later, Captain Park Minho received the emergency briefing at the United Earth Space Command headquarters. The conference room was packed with scientists, military officers, and government officials, all trying to process the implications of what they were seeing. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Yoon Ji began, we are looking at humanity's first confirmed contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. The question now is what we do about it. The room buzzed with excited conversation. Captain Minho raised his hand. What do we know about their capabilities? Dr. Wan stood up to address the group. Based on our observations, they have technology far beyond anything we've developed. Their ships are massive, possibly several kilometers long. Appear to be conducting some kind of mining operations on Jupiter's moons. Mining operations? Asked Dr. Cho Yuna from the back of the room. As Earth's leading expert on extremophile organisms, She had been called in to help assess potential alien biology. What kind of resources would they need from gas giant moons? What worries me, Juan continued. They're not just taking ice or simple materials. They're extracting heavy elements from the planetary cores, materials that we can barely access with our current technology. Engineer Kim Dae leaned forward in his seat. If they can do that kind of deep extraction, their industrial capabilities must be incredible. But why haven't they contacted us directly? Maybe they don't see us as worth contacting, suggested Major Jin Woo, the military's top reconnaissance officer. If their technology is that advanced, they might view us the same way we view ants. The discussion continued for hours, with different experts offering theories and suggestions. But one thing became clear to everyone in the room. Humanity was facing something completely unprecedented. 2 days later, Major Jin Woo led a small team to investigate the outer system anomalies firsthand. Their ship, the Earth vessel Discovery, was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, but it felt primitive compared to what they expected to encounter. Contact on long-range sensors, reported Lieutenant Park Yoon, the ship's communications officer. It's huge, sir. At least 3 kilometers long and moving in a perfect geometric pattern around Europa. Jin Woo studied the readings carefully. They're not trying to hide. They don't care if we see them, or they want us to see them. Alien vessel was unlike anything in human imagination. Its hull seemed to absorb light, making it appear as a moving shadow against the stars. Strange protrusions extended from its surface, and energy readings showed it was operating in conditions that would destroy any human-built ship. "Sir," called out Dr. Shinhyo, the mission xenobiologist, "I'm detecting atmospheric readings around that ship. The external environment shows temperatures of -200 degrees. Radiation levels that would kill us in seconds, and gravitational stress that should tear the ship apart. But it's operating normally," Jin Woo observed. "Whatever built. That ship is designed to work in conditions we can't even survive." As they watched, the alien vessel extended what appeared to be mining equipment directly into Europa's ice surface. The operation was conducted with incredible precision, extracting materials from deep within the moon, while somehow maintaining the structural integrity of the extraction site. "Look at that technique," Kim Dae said in amazement. "They're not just mining. They're doing it without causing any environmental damage to the moon. That level of precision is incredible." Back on Earth, scientific community was in overdrive. Dr. Cho Yuna had been studying the limited data about the alien operations, trying to understand what kind of life forms could operate in such extreme conditions. Based on the environmental readings, she explained to a packed auditorium, these beings must be adapted to survive in conditions that would instantly kill any Earth's organism. They're operating in hard vacuum, extreme radiation, and temperatures that would freeze nitrogen. "Solid, what does that tell us about their biology?" asked a colleague. "They're probably nothing like us," Yuna replied. "Their entire evolutionary history must have been shaped by environments we consider completely hostile. They might not even understand why we need things like breathable atmosphere or comfortable temperatures." Meanwhile, Dr. Li Wan was working around the clock to intercept any communications from the alien vessels. When he finally detected organized signals, the patterns were unlike anything in human experience. "They're using quantum encrypted transmissions," he reported to the Space Command. "The complexity is staggering, but we're starting to decode some basic patterns." The breakthrough came when the team realized the aliens were conducting what appeared to be routine status reports. The intercepted communications revealed ship names, position reports, and operational updates. "They're not just one ship," Juan announced to the Emergency Council. "There's an entire fleet out there, and they're treating our solar system like just another work site." Captain Minho was assigned to lead the human response team. "What's our approach here? Do we try to make contact, or do we wait and see what they want?" "We make contact," Admiral Yoonji decided. "But we do it carefully. We need to show them that we're intelligent without appearing threatening." The decision was made to send a simple mathematical signal toward the alien fleet. Prime numbers, followed by basic geometric patterns, then more complex mathematical concepts. It was humanity's way of saying, "We're here, and we're thinking beings." The response came faster than anyone expected. Within hours, the alien fleet had repositioned itself in a formation that spelled out the next sequence in the mathematical progression Earth had sent. Then they transmitted their own signal back to Earth. Dr. Wan nearly fell out of his chair when he decoded the message. "They're not just acknowledging us," he announced to the waiting team. "They're correcting our mathematics. They're showing us more efficient ways to express the same concepts." The implications were staggering. Not only were the aliens aware of humanity, but they were intellectually superior as well. Yet they had chosen to respond, to engage in communication rather than simply ignore the primitive inhabitants of the inner system. "Why would they bother?" asked Dr. Choyuna. "If they're so advanced, why waste time teaching us better math?" "Maybe," suggested Kim Dae, "they're curious about us. Maybe they want to understand how we think." As the initial contact protocols continued, one thing became clear to everyone involved. These aliens were not just technologically superior, they were operating on a completely different level of existence. They had mastered environments that humanity couldn't even enter, developed technology that seemed almost magical. And yet they were taking the time to communicate with a species that had barely left its home planet. The question that kept everyone awake at night was simple. What did beings who could master the harshest environments in the galaxy want with the inhabitants of a comfortable blue world? The answer, when it came, would change everything humanity thought they knew about strength, survival, and their place in the universe. The Varathi fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a storm of living metal. 12 massive vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, arranged themselves in a perfect geometric formation that spoke of military precision and overwhelming power. Fleet Marshal Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the readings of the blue-green world ahead. The planet looked exactly as the reconnaissance reports had described, a soft paradise world with gentle temperatures, breathable atmosphere, and vast oceans of liquid water. It was the kind of world that bred weakness. He deployed the standard conquest. "Protocol," Korath ordered his communications officer. "Full-spectrum broadcast to all inhabited areas of the planet." The message that reached Earth was transmitted in hundreds of languages. The Varathi translation systems having analyzed human communications for weeks. When it played simultaneously on every radio, television, and communication device on the planet, the words were clear and terrifying. "Inhabitants of the third planet, I am Fleet Marshal Korath of the Varathi Empire. You exist on a world of comfort and ease, which has made you weak. Your species has never faced true hardship. Never learned what it means to survive against impossible odds. We offer you one chance to avoid destruction. Surrender your world to the Varathi Empire. Accept integration into our civilization. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have 72 of your hours to decide." The panic that followed was immediate and global. Emergency sessions were called in every major government, while military forces around the world went to maximum alert. But in the United Earth Space Command headquarters, the response was different. President Kim Sang called an emergency meeting with the world's top scientists and military leaders. The conference room was tense, but not with the terror the Varathi had expected to create. Well, President Kim said calmly, "We always wondered what we'd do if we met aliens. Now we know." Admiral Yoon-ji studied the tactical displays showing the alien fleet positions. "They're not moving to attack positions. They're just waiting. That suggests they're serious about giving us time to consider. They're so confident in their superiority that they don't think we could possibly threaten them," added Captain Parkin. Minnow, Dr. Lee Wan, raised his hand. "There's something interesting about their message. They specifically mentioned that we've never faced true hardship. They seem to define strength purely in terms of surviving hostile environments." "That matches what we observed during their mining operations," said Dr. Choyuna. "They were working in conditions that would kill us instantly, but they seemed to prefer those conditions." Engineer Kim Dae leaned forward. "What if that's their weakness? What if they only understand one kind of strength?" President Kim looked around the room at the assembled experts. "What are you all thinking?" "I think," said Dr. Shinhyo slowly, "that we should accept their offer for a cultural exchange, but not the way they expect." The response Earth sent back to the Varathi fleet surprised Fleet Marshal Korath completely. Instead of surrender or defiance, the humans had sent a counter-proposal. Fleet Marshal Korath, came the message from Earth. Delivered by President Kim Sung, we appreciate your offer of integration into your empire. However, we would like to propose a cultural exchange first. We want to understand your civilization better, and we believe you might find our approach to survival interesting as well. We request a demonstration of your capabilities, and we offer to show you ours in return. Korath studied the message with confusion. These soft-worlders wanted to see a demonstration of Vorathi power, and they thought they had something to show in return. Sir Subcommander Veltar approached with the analysis of Earth's response. Their communication suggests they're not afraid of us. They seem genuinely curious about our abilities. Curious, Korath repeated. They should be terrified. Just threaten to destroy their entire civilization. That's what makes this interesting, sir. Their response suggests they don't understand the threat we represent, or they believe they have capabilities we haven't recognized. Korath made his decision. Very well, we'll show these soft-worlders what real strength looks like. Deploy. Demonstration force to their planet's surface. Target their most hostile environments. We'll prove that we can survive anywhere on their comfortable world. The demonstration began at Earth's deepest ocean trench. A Vorathi assault team, led by Commander the Ivar, descended to depths where the pressure would crush any human-built vessel. The water was near freezing, completely dark. The pressure was over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. But the Vorathi forces moved through the environment as if it were a pleasant garden. Their bioengineered bodies adapted to the pressure changes. Their technology functioned perfectly in the crushing depths, and they established a temporary base on the ocean floor with casual efficiency. Impressive, Dr. Cho Yuna observed from the human monitoring station. They're not just surviving down there, they're thriving. The demonstration continued at Mount Everest, where Vorathi forces operated in the thin atmosphere and sub-zero temperatures without any visible life support systems. Then they moved to the Sahara Desert, where they worked comfortably in temperatures that would kill humans within hours. But something unexpected happened during each demonstration. Instead of being intimidated, the human observers became increasingly fascinated, asked questions, requested detailed explanations, and began taking notes with an enthusiasm that puzzled the Vorathi. They're studying us, Veltar reported to Korath. Every time we demonstrate our environmental superiority, they respond with more curiosity rather than fear. What kind of questions are they asking? Korath demanded. Technical questions. Sir, they want to know how our biology works, how our technology adapts to different conditions, how we modify our equipment for specific environments. They're treating this like a learning opportunity. When it came time for the humans to demonstrate their own capabilities, the Vorathi expected to see primitive technology and basic survival skills. Instead, they witnessed something they had never encountered before. Engineer Kim Dae led the human demonstration team to a location in Antarctica. The temperature was minus 40 degrees, and the wind was howling at nearly 100 kilometers per hour. The Vorathi observers watched as the humans arrived wearing what appeared to be inadequate protective gear. They'll be dead within minutes, predicted one of the Vorathi observers. Instead, the humans began working with rapid efficiency. Kim Dae and his team erected a shelter system that used the wind itself to generate heat and power. They established communication systems that turned the electrical activity in the atmosphere into signal amplifiers. Within hours, they had created a small but comfortable base, using nothing but the hostile environment itself. How are they doing that? Dekavar asked his technical staff. They're not fighting the environment, sir. They're using it. They're turning the hostile conditions into advantages. The demonstration continued for 3 days. The humans showed the Vorathi how they could create sustainable food sources in desert environments, how they could generate power from ocean currents, how they could build structures that became stronger in earthquake zones. But it was Dr. Cho Yuna's biological demonstration that truly shocked the Vorathi. She showed them extremophile organisms from Earth's most hostile environments, bacteria that thrived in boiling acid, organisms that lived in the cores of nuclear reactors, creatures that survived in the vacuum of space. Your world produced these organisms naturally, Korath asked in amazement. Our world produces incredible diversity, Yuna explained. We've learned that life finds a way to exist in every possible environment. We don't just survive in hostile conditions, we learn from them. The cultural exchange revealed something that shook the Varathi understanding of strength and survival. The humans didn't overcome hostile environments through individual power or superior technology. Instead, they adapted, they learned, they found ways to work with their environment rather than against it. They're not weak, Veltar reported too. Korath, they're different. They solve problems we never even thought to solve. But they've never faced truly hostile conditions, Korath protested. Their world is paradise compared to our conquered territories. Sir Veltar replied carefully, what if that's exactly why they're so good at adaptation? They've had to learn to work with what they have, rather than just overpowering it. As the cultural exchange continued, both species began to realize that their first contact was revealing something neither had expected. The Varathi had mastered survival through strength and technology. The humans had mastered survival through understanding and understanding, cooperation. The question now was whether these two completely different approaches to survival could coexist, or if they would ultimately clash in ways that neither species was prepared for. Fleet Marshal Korath paced across his command bridge, his massive frame casting shadows on the metal floor. The cultural exchange had revealed something disturbing about these humans. They were not showing the proper fear and respect that weaker species should display when faced with Varathi superiority. They think their little tricks with wind and water make them strong, Korath muttered to Sub-Commander Veltar. They have no idea what real survival means. Veltar studied the reports from the demonstration teams. Sir, their adaptation methods are remarkably efficient. They accomplish things our engineers hadn't considered possible with such limited resources. Efficiency means nothing without true strength, Korath snapped. These soft-worlders have never faced genuine hardship. Their planet is a garden world where everything is provided for them. They need to learn what survival really means. Korath made his decision. He opened a communication channel to Earth. President Kim sang of Earth. His voice boomed across space. Your species claims to understand survival. We propose a test. We'll take a small group of your people to one of our conquered worlds. If they can survive for one complete planetary cycle in conditions that have broken stronger species than yours, we will consider your people worthy of favorable integration into our empire. The message continued with details that made even the most optimistic human leaders pause. The test world was Zarian 7, a planet locked between a red giant star and eternal darkness. One side burned at temperatures that melted metal, while the other side was frozen colder than liquid nitrogen. The narrow zone between the two extremes suffered constant storms, temperature swings of hundreds of degrees, and an atmosphere that was barely breathable. It's a death sentence, Admiral Yoon-ji said bluntly during the emergency meeting. They're asking us to survive on a world that even their own people find challenging. But they're offering favorable integration if we succeed, President Kim pointed out. It suggests they believe it's possible to survive there. Dr. Li Huan pulled up the data they had gathered about Varathi biology. They've engineered themselves to thrive in these conditions. We're dealing with a completely different kind of organism. So we adapt, said Major Jinwoo simply. Isn't that what humans do best? The volunteer team assembled within 24 hours. Major Jinwoo would lead the mission, bringing his military training and leadership skills. Dr. Cho Yuna volunteered her expertise in extreme biology and ecosystem analysis. Engineer Kim Dae insisted on joining to handle technical challenges and equipment modification. Dr. Shin Hyo completed the team, bringing her knowledge of alien environments and survival protocols. You understand the risk? Each volunteer personally before they departed. We understand the opportunity, Jinwoo replied, for all of them. If we can prove that humans can survive anywhere, it changes everything about how the galaxy sees us. The transport to Zarian 7 took 3 days aboard a Varathi vessel. The human volunteers were given basic survival equipment, environmental suits, food supplies for 1 week, basic tools, and a communication device. Commander Thekvar oversaw their transport with barely concealed skepticism. Your equipment will fail within hours on Zarian 7, he told them. The temperature changes alone will crack your seals. Atmospheric composition will corrode your metal tools. Even if you somehow survive the first day, the psychological pressure of constant environmental threat will break your minds. We appreciate the warning, Jinwoo replied politely. We'll do our best. The drop zone was in the twilight region of Zarian 7, where the burning and frozen hemispheres met in an endless storm of chaos. As the transport ship descended through the violent atmosphere, the humans got their first real look at their testing ground. The landscape was a nightmare of extremes. Rivers of molten metal flowed from the burning side, only to freeze solid when they reached the cold zones. The ground cracked and shifted constantly as expanding and contracting materials fought against each other. Storm winds carried debris at speeds that could cut through steel. Temperature readings are jumping between -100 and plus 300 degrees Celsius, Dr. Shin Hyo reported. Atmospheric pressure varies by 30% every few minutes. Humidity levels are all over the place. Gravity is 1.4 times Earth normal, added Kim Dae. The electromagnetic storms are going to interfere with most of our equipment. The Varathi observers expected the humans to establish a simple shelter and wait out their inevitable death. Instead, they watched in growing amazement as the human team began analyzing their environment with systematic precision. Dr. Cho, Yuna immediately began collecting samples of local organisms. There's life here, she announced within the first hour. Primitive, but adapted to these extreme variations. If life can exist here naturally, we can learn from it. Meanwhile, Kim Dae was studying the temperature fluctuations with intense focus. These aren't random, he called out over the howling wind. There's a pattern. The thermal variations follow the planetary rotation and the interaction between the two climate zones. Which means we can predict them, Jinwoo realized. Within 6 hours, the humans had established not just a shelter, but a functional base. Kim Dae had rigged a thermal regulation system that used the planet's own temperature swings to generate power and maintain comfortable conditions inside their shelter. The system actually became more efficient as the environmental conditions became more extreme. How are they doing that? Thekfar demanded of his technical staff. They're using the temperature differential as an energy source, came the bewildered reply. When the environment gets hotter, their system stores the excess energy. When it gets colder, the stored energy is released for heating. The more extreme the conditions become, the more power they generate. Dr. Cho Yuna had made an even more remarkable discovery. She had identified several local organisms that could be processed into nutritious food. More importantly, she had found bacteria that could break down the toxic elements in the atmosphere and produce breathable air. They're creating a sustainable ecosystem, Veltar reported to Korath. In less than 1 day, they've established food production, air purification, and energy generation using nothing but the hostile environment itself. But the humans weren't finished. Dr. Shin Hyo had been mapping the geological patterns and discovered something the Varathi had missed. The constant expansion and contraction of the ground created predictable mineral formations. Areas that looked completely barren actually contained concentrated deposits of useful materials. We can mine here, she announced to the team. The environmental stress is concentrating rare elements in specific zones. We just need to know where to look. By the end of the first week, the human base had expanded into a small settlement. They had established hydroponic gardens using local minerals and processed atmosphere. They had built workshops where they created tools and equipment from materials extracted from the planet itself. They had even begun exploring regions of Zarian 7 that the Varathi had declared completely uninhabitable. This is impossible, Korath said, watching the reports. No species adapts this quickly to extreme conditions. They should be dead by now, Sir Veltar said carefully. They're not just surviving, they're improving the environment. Look at these atmospheric readings from around their base. They're actually making the local conditions more stable. The humans had begun terraforming operations. Their bacterial processing systems were slowly changing the atmospheric composition in their immediate area. Their thermal regulation techniques were reducing the temperature variations. Their mining activities were stabilizing the geological activity. They're not conquering the environment, Thekvar observed with growing amazement. They're healing it. They're making Zarian 7 a better place to live. 2 weeks into the test, Major Jinwoo sent a message back to the Varathi fleet. Commander Thekvar, we'd like to invite you and your team to visit our settlement. I think you might find our approach interesting. When the Varathi delegation arrived at the human base, they found something that challenged every assumption they had about survival and strength. The humans had created a comfortable, productive settlement in one of the most hostile environments in the galaxy. More than that, they had done it in a way that improved conditions for everyone.
Your methods?
Thekvar said slowly. They could be applied to other worlds. Worlds we've written off as too hostile even for us. That's the idea, Kim Dae replied. Every environment has potential. You just have to understand how to work with it instead of against it. Dr. Cho Yuna showed the Varathi delegates through their biological processing facilities. We're not trying to impose our needs on this planet. We're finding ways to meet our needs while helping the planet thrive. The month-long test period passed quickly. By the end, the human settlement had become a thriving community that was actually improving the planetary environment. They had established trade relationships with the native organisms, created sustainable resource cycles, and even begun artistic projects using the unique properties of their extreme environment. When Fleet Marshal Korath arrived for the final evaluation, he found something that shook his understanding of what it meant to be strong. The humans had not just survived Zarian 7. They had made it better. Your test is complete, he announced. To the human team, you have exceeded every expectation. When I must ask you something. How did soft-worlders like you develop such extraordinary adaptation abilities? Jinwoo smiled as he gestured toward their thriving settlement. We learned from our soft world. Earth taught us that cooperation creates more opportunities than competition, that understanding creates more strength than force, that adaptation creates more security than domination. We've spent our whole civilization learning to work with our environment instead of against it, added Dr. Cho Yuna. It turns out that's a skill that works anywhere. As Korath looked around at what the humans had accomplished, he realized that his empire's fundamental assumptions about strength and survival might need to be reconsidered. These soft-worlders had demonstrated something the Varathi had never achieved, the ability to make any environment not just livable, but better than it was before. The question now was what this meant for an empire. It's built on the principle that only the strongest deserve to survive. The news of humanity's success on Zarian 7 spread through the Varathi Empire like wildfire. On a dozen conquered worlds, Varathi commanders found themselves staring at reports that challenged everything they believed about survival and strength. Commander Thekvar stood in his private quarters aboard his flagship, studying video recordings of the human settlement for the 100th time. The images showed impossible things, a thriving community where his own people had struggled to maintain basic mining operations. The humans had not just survived Zarian 7, they had transformed it. Sir, Sub-Commander Veltar entered with another intelligence report. The High Command is requesting detailed analysis of human methods. There are questions being raised about our standard conquest protocols. Thekvar turned away from the screen. What kind of questions? Some of our territories are asking why we never attempted the techniques the humans demonstrated. The governors of the methane moon colonies want to know if human adaptation methods could improve their extraction efficiency. And what are you? Telling them, Veltar hesitated. That we're investigating, sir? Yeah, but the truth is, we never considered working with hostile environments, instead of simply overpowering them. On Earth, the successful completion of the Zarian 7 test had energized the entire planet. Dr. Li Wan led a team of scientists working around the clock to develop new interstellar travel capabilities, inspired by what they had learned from Varathi. Technology. If we can survive on their most hostile worlds, Juan explained to the assembled research teams, then we can explore places in the galaxy that no one has ever imagined visiting. The human response to the test results surprised the Varathi even more than their survival had. Instead of celebrating their victory or demanding favorable treatment, the humans made an offer that shocked the entire empire. President Kim Sang addressed Fleet Marshal Korath directly through an open transmission that was intercepted by Varathi forces throughout the sector. Fleet Marshal Korath, We want to thank you for the opportunity to prove ourselves on Zarian 7. The experience taught us valuable lessons about adaptation and cooperation. In return, we would like to make you an offer. Korath listened from his command bridge, surrounded by his senior staff. The human president continued. We propose a partnership between our species. We've seen your incredible technology and your mastery of hostile environments. You've seen our adaptation methods and our ability to improve environmental conditions. Together, we could explore and colonize worlds that neither of our species could handle alone. The bridge fell silent. In the entire history of the Varathi Empire, no conquered species had ever proposed partnership. It always begged for mercy, offered tribute, or fought desperately against inevitable defeat. They want to work with us? Veltar asked in amazement. After we threatened to destroy their world? That's not the strangest part, Korath replied. They're offering to help us explore worlds we can't currently reach. They think they can improve our capabilities. The offer created a crisis within the Varathi High Command. For generations, their empire had been built on a simple principle. The strong dominated the weak. The idea that a soft-world species could offer valuable partnership challenged the foundation of their civilization. But the crisis went deeper than politics. On conquered worlds throughout the empire, other species had heard about humanity's achievements. They began asking uncomfortable questions about Varathi methods and whether cooperation might achieve better results than domination. On the gas giant mining station of Kepler 44b, the enslaved Altarian workers approached their Varathi supervisors with a proposal. They had been studying the human techniques and believed they could increase mining efficiency by 30% while reducing environmental damage. The humans showed that working with natural systems creates better results than fighting them, explained the Altarian delegation leader. We want to try their methods here. Similar requests came from a dozen other worlds. Species that had accepted Varathi rule for decades suddenly wanted to experiment with human-style cooperation and environmental harmony. Commander, Lafar found himself facing a decision that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Altarian proposal made technical sense, but allowing conquered species to modify standard Varathi procedures went against every tradition of the Empire. Sir, his chief engineer reported, I've run the calculations. The Altarian modifications would actually work. Their proposed changes would make our operations more efficient and more sustainable. But it means admitting that our methods aren't perfect, Thekvar said. Sir, the humans proved that on Zarian 7. Maybe it's time we learn from that. On Earth. Dr. Kim Day was leading a project that would have seemed impossible before the Varathi contact. His team was designing human settlements for environments that had previously been considered completely uninhabitable. The cores of gas giants, the surfaces of neutron stars, and the event horizons of black holes. The key is understanding that every environment has unique properties we can use, he explained to a gathering of Earth's top engineers. The Varathi showed us that with enough technology, you can survive anywhere. We're showing them that with enough understanding, you can thrive anywhere. Dr. Cho Yuna had taken the biological lessons from Zarian 7 and applied them to dozens of theoretical alien environments. Her research suggested that human adaptation principles could create sustainable ecosystems in places the Varathi had never even attempted to colonize. We're not talking about conquest, she emphasized to the scientific community. We're talking about creating homes. There's a difference between surviving somewhere and belonging somewhere. The philosophical shift was happening within the Varathi Empire as well. Sub-Commander Veltar had been assigned to study human methods and their potential applications to Varathi operations. Her conclusions were revolutionary. The humans don't see hostile environments as enemies to be defeated, she reported to the High Command. They see them as puzzles to be solved. Their entire approach is based on understanding and cooperation rather than domination and force. What are the practical implications? Asked the High Command. We could expand into regions of space we've never been able to access. The humans have proposed joint expeditions to the galactic core, to the dark matter regions beyond the galactic rim, even to the space between galaxies. Their adaptation methods combined with our technology, could make these missions possible. Decision came from an unexpected source. The Varathi Emperor himself, who had ruled the empire for over 2 centuries, issued a statement that changed everything. For too long, we have defined strength as the ability to survive in hostile conditions, the emperor declared. The humans have shown us that true strength might be the ability to make hostile conditions into homes. We will explore this partnership. Marshal Korath received his new orders with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. Instead of preparing for conquest, he was tasked with organizing the first joint human Varathi expedition to a region of space that neither species had ever attempted to explore. The neutron star fields at the galaxy's edge, they want us to work together? He asked, reading the orders for the 3rd time. More than that, sir, Veltar replied. They want us to learn from each other. The humans will teach us their adaptation methods, and will share our environmental mastery technology. Back on Earth, Major Jin Wu was selected to lead the human contingent of the joint expedition. The team would include many of the same people who had proven themselves on Zarian 7, along with specialists in every field of human knowledge. This isn't just about proving we can survive in space, Jin Wu explained to his team. This is about proving that cooperation creates possibilities that neither species could achieve alone. Dr. Shinhyo raised an important question. This doesn't work? What if our methods are too different to combine effectively? Then we learn from the failure, replied Dr. Cho Yuna. That's what humans do best. We adapt to whatever happens. As the joint expedition prepared to launch, both species realized they were embarking on something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, 2 completely different approaches to survival and exploration would work together to push the boundaries of what was possible. The Varathi had spent millennia proving they could conquer the harshest worlds in the galaxy. The humans had proven they could make those worlds better. Now they would discover what they could accomplish together. The partnership would test everything both species believed about strength, survival, and their place in the universe. But it would also open doors to regions of space that had been waiting millions of years for explorers brave enough to find them. 5 years after first contact, Admiral Park Min-ho stood on the observation deck of the joint exploration vessel Harmony, watching the impossible sight of a human Varathi colony thriving in the corona of a neutron star. The magnetic fields that would have torn apart any conventional settlement had been transformed into the colony's primary power source. Status report from New Kepler Station reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Kim So, a young woman who had grown up during the partnership years and spoke both human languages and Varathi dialects fluently. Colony population is now 15,000, sir. 8,000 human, 7,000 Varathi. They've successfully established sustainable agriculture using the neutron star's radiation cycles. Mineral extraction is exceeding all projections. Min nodded with satisfaction. New Kepler had been impossible by old standards, both human and Varathi. The radiation levels would have killed unprotected humans instantly. While the complex magnetic field interactions had frustrated traditional Varathi brute force engineering approaches, but together the 2 species had found a way. Human adaptation. Principles had identified how to work with the neutron star's unique properties. while Varathi technology had provided the tools to actually implement those solutions. Sir, Lieutenant Kim continued, we're receiving a transmission from the Deep Void expedition. Commander Vekvar reports successful establishment of the first intergalactic way station. Minho smiled. Vekvar had become one of the strongest advocates for the human-Varathi partnership, leading joint expeditions to the most challenging regions of space. The Varathi commander had learned to appreciate human ingenuity, while his own environmental mastery had made possible missions that humans could never have attempted alone. The intergalactic way station represented the pinnacle of their cooperation. Located in the dark void between galaxies, it served as a stepping stone for expeditions into previously unreachable regions of the universe. The station operated in conditions of almost perfect vacuum, cosmic radiation, and gravitational isolation. That would have been impossible for either species to handle independently. Excellent, Minho replied. Signal the way station that the next supply convoy will include the new terraforming packages. Dr. Cho, Huna's team has developed techniques that should work even in intergalactic space. On Earth, the partnership had transformed human civilization in ways no one had imagined. Dr. Li Huan, now director of the combined Human Varathi Research Institute, oversaw projects that spanned dozens of star systems. The latest reports from the Magellanic Cloud expeditions are remarkable, he told his assembled staff. We've established colonies in nebula regions that we couldn't even have detected 5 years ago. Varathi scanning technology combined with human environmental adaptation has opened up entire new categories of habitable space. Engineer Kim Dae, now leading the Advanced Engineering Division, had developed construction techniques that used cosmic phenomena as building materials. Dark matter manipulation, gravity well engineering, and quantum foam architecture had all become practical realities. We're not just building in space anymore, he explained to a gathering of human and Varathi engineers. We're building with space itself. Every cosmic phenomenon becomes a potential tool. The partnership had changed the Varathi Empire as much as it had transformed humanity. On Karak Prime, the acid rain still fell, but now it powered vast atmospheric processing plants that supplied breathable air to dozens of worlds. The Varathi had learned to see their harsh environments not as tests of strength, but as sources of unique opportunities. Subcommander Veltar, now promoted to Fleet Marshal and serving as liaison to human forces, addressed the Varathi High Command. With reports that would have seemed like fantasy just years earlier, joint colonies now span 47 star systems, she reported. We've established settlements around black holes inside stellar cores and in the dark matter halos of distant galaxies. Each colony uses environmental conditions that neither species could have exploited alone. What about resistance from other galactic civilizations? Asked a High Command member. That's the remarkable part, sir. Instead of resistance, we're seeing requests for partnership. 17 different species have asked to join our cooperative exploration efforts. Want to learn our combined techniques? Success had indeed attracted attention throughout the galaxy. Species that had been locked into limited territories by environmental constraints were discovering that human Varathi cooperation offered solutions to problems they had considered unsolvable. Dr. Shinhyo, now serving as director of xenobiological studies, had documented over 300 different species that had benefited from the partnership model. We're seeing the emergence of a truly cooperative galactic civilization, she reported. Species are sharing their unique capabilities instead of competing for limited resources. Fleet Marshal Korath, now leading the deep space exploration division, had become an unlikely advocate for galactic cooperation. His fleets, once instruments of conquest, had become tools of discovery and mutual aid. We've completed the survey of the galactic core region, he reported to the Joint Human Varathi Council. The conditions there are more extreme than anything we've previously encountered, but the potential resources are extraordinary. We believe a joint colony could be established within 2 years. The Galactic Core Project represented everything the partnership had achieved. The intense radiation, massive gravity wells, and exotic matter concentrations would have been deadly to either species alone. But combined human adaptability and Varathi, technological mastery, made the impossible seem routine. On the colony world of Zarian 7, now called New Hope, Major Jinwoo served as planetary governor of a thriving world that had become a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. The planet that had once been a testing ground for human survival was now home to millions of beings from dozens of different species. 5 years ago, this world was considered barely habitable. He reflected during a ceremony marking the anniversary of the first human landing. Today, it's one of the most productive and diverse colonies in known space. The transformation of Zarian 7 had become a model for other worlds. The techniques developed there, environmental cooperation, adaptive engineering, multi-species collaboration, were being applied throughout the galaxy. Dr. Cho Yuna, now serving as head of the Galactic Environmental Council, had seen her. Biological adaptation principles become the foundation for a new approach to space colonization. We've learned that every environment, no matter how hostile, has the potential to support life. She explained to representatives from across the galaxy. The key is understanding how to work with natural systems rather than against them. Partnership had created something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization based on cooperation rather than competition, adaptation rather than domination. The old model of strong species conquering weak ones had given way to a new paradigm, where diversity and collaboration created strength. As Admiral Minho looked out at the neutron star colony, he reflected on how much had changed since that first nervous day when humanity detected alien ships in their solar system. The Varathi had come as conquerors, believing that strength came from surviving in hostile environments. Humanity had shown them that true strength came from making hostile environments into homes.
Admiral?
Lieutenant Kim reported, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The Combined Council has approved the next phase of expansion. We're cleared to begin preparations for expeditions beyond the Galactic Group." Minho smiled. Beyond the Galactic Group lay the true unknown regions of space, so distant and exotic that no life had ever attempted to explore them. But with human adaptability and Varathi mastery working together, even those impossible distances seemed within reach. "Signal all expedition leaders," he ordered. "Prepare for the next phase. We're going to explore places that the universe has been waiting billions of years for someone to discover." The partnership between humanity and the Varathi had transformed both species from what they were into something neither could have become alone. The galaxy, once divided between the strong and the weak, had become a place where strength came from unity and the courage to adapt. The harsh world still existed, more hostile and challenging than ever. But now they were no longer barriers to be overcome. There were opportunities to be embraced, puzzles to be solved, and homes to be created. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time in cosmic history, there were explorers ready to find them all.